All right, I want to talk about writing methods today, and just to kind of preface that thing, we're going to take a look at this calculator, because what we're going to do is create a calculator class that is going to be able to simulate like a real-world calculator, okay? So I want you to kind of think about what happens when we hit number buttons on a calculator. So for example, if we hit the 3, okay, and then what happens when I hit a 1? It inserts a 1, okay? So kind of think about the math that's happening when we do that. So right now, this value is 3. When we hit a 1, it becomes 31, okay? When I hit a 5, what's going to happen? And what's the math that's happening there? Okay, good, yeah. So it basically takes the value that we have, multiplies it by 10, and then adds the number that I pressed, right? So if I hit 5, it's going to take 31 times 10, that's 310, plus 5 is 315. All right? So that's good that you come up with that right away. So the other thing that we want to see here is that we're keeping track of a value in the calculator. When we're actually using the calculator, you know, we always see the value, okay? But like you guys have seen, you know, when we're outputting something to the console, we have to tell it to print that thing that we want to output, okay? So it's a little bit different. All right, so we're going to create a class to keep track of a calculator, or to kind of simulate a calculator. And we've done that before with bed and with lamp. And so what we noticed about those things is that we have instance variables, we have a constructor, and we have different methods that tell us what that thing can do. So like a lamp, we can tell a lamp to draw, or we can tell a bed to draw. That's a method that we've written before. Okay, bed has its own instance variable, bed has its own constructor. Okay, so that's something that we're going to talk about. But we're going to go over to object-oriented programming, and we're going to make 2 new classes. One of them is going to be called writing methods. We want that to have a main method. And then I'm going to make another class right away, and that class is going to be called calculator. And I don't want that one to have a main method. What I am going to do is kind of minimize my Project Explorer and then split the screen between the calculator and the writing methods program. So we're going to take some notes over here in writing methods, just so that you guys are kind of on the same page as me. So a method is a set of instructions that we can give a name to. And what methods do is they describe an action, a question, a command, or a behavior that our objects can do or have. Okay, so like we can ask an object a question like, what's your X position? Okay, or tell an object to do something like change your color. Okay, and so there's 2 basic families of methods. Okay, one of those is called a procedure. Okay, and a procedure doesn't return anything. All right, it just does the instructions. Okay, so that's something that you've done already. Okay, so for example, something like bed. Okay, bed has a draw method, and draw is void, right? It doesn't return anything. It just does these things. It just sets the color and fills rectangles and stuff like that, right? So that's what we call a procedure, right? Let's give you kind of a real world example of that, okay? So like you might be, over the weekend, maybe your mom got frustrated with you, or your mom, maybe this is just an expectation in your house, and she said, go clean your room, right? And so you've been programmed over the years to understand what that means, and it might mean something different in your house than it does in mine, but like, okay, I gotta, pull all the dirty laundry out of my closet and make my bed and organize my dresser and vacuum the floor, whatever. That's what clean my room means, right? My mom doesn't have to tell me to do all of those things individually. She can just go ahead and say, clean your room, and I know the instructions that go with that command, okay? That's kind of like what a procedure is, all right? So something like, sorry about that. Okay, so clean your room is an example of a procedure. And the way that we know procedures are that they have the word void in their definition, okay, or their method signature. Okay. So the other type of method is called a function. In a function, we're expecting something back from, okay? So for example, maybe your mom at some point over the weekend said, hey, go get the milk, And so you know that getting the milk requires some actions, right? You have to go into the kitchen if you're not already there. You have to open up the refrigerator, get the milk out of the refrigerator, close the refrigerator, and bring the milk back to wherever your mom is, okay? And so there's some instructions that go with that as well, but also you're getting something back, okay? You're not just doing something, you're returning something to whoever asked you to do that function, okay? So things that we know about a function are that it returns a result. In Java, we have to tell it what that type is, the type of result that we're going to get from it, okay? So it has a type. And the type could be something like int or string, or it could be something weird too, like lamp. We could write a method that returns a lamp. Okay? And so the example that we had there was get the milk. And that returns milk. Okay? And so if we have something that's not void, so if it's anything other than void, then we're going to call that thing a function. All right? So we're going to write a function over in our calculator class, and we're going to write a procedure over in our calculator class, just so you can kind of get the sense for what we're talking about here. All right? So a calculator keeps track of a value, right? So I'm going to go over here and put private double value. And when you turn a calculator on, what do you want the value to be? 0, right? So I'm going to make a constructor over here, public calculator. And then inside there, we're going to set value equal to, I'm just going to do 0.0. And then we're going to write a simple function over here in calculator, and that's going to be public double equals, okay, with a set of parentheses there, brace, and that's going to return value. So let's go over to writing methods, okay? And I'm just going to put in here C the calculator class. But over here, we're going to create a calculator. So I'm going to go calculator myCalc equals new calculator. All right. And let's just kind of talk about this for a second. This right here is declaring a calculator called myCalc. Every calculator is going to have a value. All right. Then the next thing that we're doing here is saying myCalc equals or is assigned a new object. And the object that we're going to make is made via this calculator constructor. So that calls over here and makes value equal to 0 for myCalc. All right. And if we want to see that, then we want to go ahead and print out whatever myCalc is, or whatever myCalc equals. So we're going to go myCalc dot equals, just like that, to call on the method that we just wrote over here. So what happens then is myCalc dot equals goes over here and it says, oh, return value to wherever it got called. So value is going to get in place of this call right here, and we should see that it prints out 0.0. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to run this. And if you look over here at the console, you can see that it printed out 0.0. So the next thing then we want to do is simulate the number buttons on the calculator, right? We want to be able to plug different values into the calculator, all right? So over here, we're trying to add some kind of function. Remember, methods are instructions that describe an action, question, command, or behavior that objects can do or have. So like for a calculator, we can press the number button, and we expect that that changes the value of the calculator. Okay, so we want in here to create another method. Okay, now if you think about this, we're really not asking for the value. We're just saying, hey, change the value. So it's not quite like clean your room, but it's similar in that regard. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go public void, all right, and I'm just going to call this number 1, like I'm pressing the number 1 button. Okay, so I still need a set of parentheses there. I need a French brace. Okay, and what we said is that when the number 1 button is pressed, we're going to take the value and we're going to reset it to whatever the value is times 10 plus 1, because we hit the number 1. Okay, so that's true for each number. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm just doing that on the keyboard with Control C, and then I'm going to paste it, so Control V, and I'm going to change this from number 1 to number 2, and then add 2 instead of adding 1. Okay, and I'm going to do that for 3, 4, and 5, and then I'm going to stop. So 3, 4, 5, change that to 3, change that to 4, change that to 5, change that to 3, change that to 4, change that to 5. Okay, so eventually we do want to have like the numbers 6 through 9 and the number 0 button, but for now I'm just going to leave it like that. Over here now, for myCalc, I want to simulate that I'm pressing the numbers that we pressed like at the beginning of this. So I think the numbers were 315, or it was like 315, and we had 315 for the value of the calculator. So I'm going to go over here and go myCalc dot number 3. myCalc dot number 1, and then myCalc dot number 5. Okay? And if I run that again, you can see down here that the value is 315. Okay? So what it's doing is when I call myCalc dot number 3, okay, it goes over here don't know why that's happening. It goes over here and takes the value, which is 0. 0 times 10 is 0, plus 3 is 3. MyCalc.number1. Now the value is 3. 3 times 10 is 30, plus 1 is 31. Okay? MyCalc.number5. 31 times 10 is 310, plus 5 is 315. And then finally we ask for what it equals right here, okay? And then print out whatever is returned there to 315. So notice that here we're not returning anything because these are void methods, okay? And here we have to return something because it's a double method, okay? And the thing that we have to return is a double. So we're returning value there. All right, so I'm just going to add in a couple more notes up here just to kind of wrap things up here. But that's pretty much all we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and say methods are normally public. Okay, so if we look at what we've done over here, you know, basically number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are all basically the same thing. All right. So if we look over here, we see methods are starting out with public, so they're normally public. Okay, methods have the next thing is their return type. Okay, and so when we say that it has a return type, void tells us it doesn't return anything. Okay, and we called that a procedure. If there's a type other than void there, that tells us it has to return that type of value. So I'm just going to say it has to return something of the type given. Okay. Looking at these examples over here again, right? So we got public double. Now we know that it has to return a double. Public void tells us it doesn't have to return anything. The next thing that comes after double is equals, and in this case, number 1. All right. So what we also want to give a method is some kind of meaningful name. Okay, and then the name is followed by parentheses. The parentheses are followed by French braces. And the instructions for the method go inside the French braces.